Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to the daily update on 1000 day challenge. This day I'm 55, so let's get things started. Alright, very quick update across the week itself. So basically, we did close a very nice large weekly green candlestick across the board for all the traditional financial market itself, be it for S&P 500, Nasdaq, ASH, and KWEB itself. So obviously, the China equity market is very large, distinct kind of green candlestick formation. On the other hand, for S&P 500 and Nasdaq, it's still a little decently sized green candlestick formation over here and also a decently green candlestick over here. So all of which show signs of strength, especially we have some sign of consolidation over here. And in terms of the S&P 500, not so much of a consolidation, but still a decent consolidation and seems to be leading ahead. But bear in mind, this is ultimately still a downslope kind of a trend line. But if you do actually connect to the upside, then yes, technically we have broken up its side. But bear in mind, we still have this sloping kind of 50 simple moving average on the weekly chart that could potentially be acting as a temporary kind of resistance as well. So I'm a little bit cautious in terms of the short-term wise, but I do think that in terms of mid-term wise, we could have potentially have a continued shift towards the momentum itself. Yes, fundamentally there's still a lot of uncertainty in the market itself, but a lot of it could have already been priced in. And a lot of times people do say that there is a much further bear market in place, but bear in mind that at the end of the day, what price is being shown in the market itself ultimately depends on how much money the market participants have to purchase. So meaning to say that if you actually have already X amount of money and then you print another X amount of money, this means that you have two X amount of money. So does that mean that the price of stocks tentatively should reflects what it is prior to where there were only X amount of money there is? So meaning to say whatever price that you've seen in the past whereby there was X amount of money to right now what it is, it should technically still be double, even though technically the value itself has not increased because in terms of demand wise things may not have increased, but because we're measuring something that has actually increased in quantity and circulation wise, and technically this would increase in that sense. So that's something to always bear in mind. At least that's in my personal opinion and perspective itself. All right, so yeah, nothing much in terms of US equity market. If you move along in terms of China equity market, we definitely do see a potential shift of momentum itself. So I do think that we are potentially likely to have a much greater shift. But bear in mind that this is not only the 20 exponential moving average on the daily chart that could act as a potential resistance. In addition to that, there is also the previous support region itself, which could now potentially turn as a bearish momentum itself. So overall, we have actually only retraced from the high to the low in terms of ASHR wise only to 47%. So it's not even 50% of it. So I'm not entirely that bearish in that sense. So yeah, let's see how things goes. In terms of KWEB wise, definitely more bearish. But bear in mind, we also have to recover a little bit more in the perspective as well. So if you look all the way from the top all the way to the bottom itself, we did definitely reach a very significant low of 83%, which is extremely drastic. So I would say that there is potentially, like what I mentioned back then, was a potential capitulation when we do hit this region itself. And right now, we've already recovered quite substantially. Actually, if we consider all the way to the low to where we are right now, this is 73% gain. Even though, like what I mentioned, percentage is one thing. At the end of the day, even though it's close to like 80% itself, but that doesn't mean that we are going all the way to the top. Because to go all the way to the top, we actually need to grow now 500%, which means you're going to have a 5x growth itself. So you actually caught exactly at the bottom itself, and then we went all the way to the top. That will mean that you actually 5x your portfolio itself. But of course, on the more practical front end, you're unlikely to get the bottom. And even if you were to get at this current price level itself, it's still going to be a very decent kind of entry itself because it's still going to get a very decent 2.5% or 2.5x kind of a return itself. So yeah, let's see how things goes. But definitely, I do think that potential short-term pullback will likely to be in, and it's more likely that we see some sort of consolidation here first prior to making much higher highs. But that doesn't mean that consolidation has to happen here or below. It could actually also happen right below this prior resistance as well. So that means that you will potentially be getting a worst of price, but bear in mind, it's always about risk and reward. And that is something that there is potentially less risk when you enter at a much more of a safer zone itself. But of course, the potential returns will definitely be less. So in that particular event itself, it could also spark a reversal pattern for Bitcoin itself. But Bitcoin still looks extremely fragile as of this moment in time because we are still not decisively break above and staying above 20 exponential moving average on the daily chart. And with the impact of how FTX is and how the entire crypto market has been impacted, it's very unlikely to be frank to actually for a short-term recovery like V-shaped recovery pattern itself. But tentatively, I'm still bullish in terms of the next 3 to 5 years. I do think that Bitcoin is going to be in the six-digit mark. So if you're looking in terms of where we are getting right now at 17K, all the way up to 100K itself, you're getting a very pretty much more than 5x return in the next 3 to 5 years. So to me, that will be a very great kind of return that I'll be looking at. So if that's it, I've come to the end of today. I'm not looking to enter any short-term trades, but long-term trade-wise, I'll be looking to definitely dollar cost average for Bitcoin right now at this price level itself. So every month to month, I'll be getting in at this level and continue to accumulate Bitcoin and maybe a little bit of Ethereum itself. So those two, I still do think that will be the main blue chip that you have in terms of crypto market itself. And do try to keep them in terms of a safer cold storage wise, in terms of say on the Nano Ledger or even on the Trezor itself, or even at the very minimum of software wallets would be a very much bare minimum. I would say that you would require to actually keep in con or to keep safe your Bitcoin or Ethereum or even any other tokens itself. So if that's it, I come to the end of today and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.